I would say this is probably going up here, too. Just the growth of vicious inequality going on between the haves and the have-nots. I mean, America's supposed to be in the middle of this big economic boom, and you probably couldn't even fill up this room with the number of people who have benefited from it. And otherwise, you have these sadistic little bean counters, which I guess is happening here now, too, under Gordon Campbell, where they're just trying to say, okay, we've already fucked over poor people this way and cut the money. Let's see if we can cut some more here. Who among the disadvantaged who needs us the most can we kick in the teeth this week? You know, and I was told on the way in here that even homelessness in Victoria has gone up and up and up and up. You know, but don't ever let people forget that that didn't used to be that way. People in America don't realize that we didn't have this explosion of homelessness until Reagan got in. You didn't see, I mean, I saw it in New York City, but I didn't see New York City level cruelty and abandonment in every town, big and small, until later. It just gets worse and worse and worse. In the United States, it's multiplied, well, not multiplied, but gone up 10% a year, every year for the last several years, according to the U.S. Conference of Mayors, a lot of it being whole families now and things. And New York Times just reported that we treat the people at the bottom rung of the ladder so badly that a full-time worker at minimum wage cannot afford a one-bedroom apartment at market rates anywhere in the United States. Yeah, you know, so basically, even people who are employed, who work at a place like Walmart, the government has to subsidize them with more welfare or whatever until that gets cut off, because now there's a 5-year limit on getting any kind of public assistance like that, thus the homeless population goes up. Clinton was the one who put that through, by the way. What's good for Walmart is good for America. Today, America, tomorrow, the world, because you've got Walmartians all over the place here, too, don't you? But just basically be more and more vicious to people who need a hand the most. It's a disease. Some people seem to get off on this or something. And Exhibit A, New Orleans. Bushism, a disease that affects more than one party, more than one country, Bushism at its most naked. There it was, for all to see, even the corporate media, caught with their pants down, having to show proof that people are horrifically poor in the richest country in the world, and are just being badly abused on a daily basis. But they covered their ass quickly. Within a day or two, anybody African-American who was taking stuff out of stores was a looter, and anybody white was gathering survival supplies. And then Kanye West said on that fundraising telethon live on the air, George Bush doesn't care about black people, a pretty mild-mannered way of stating the obvious, and he was just vilified by all the blabbermongers on the TV and the press and everything. Oh, what a scandal! Boy, that's the worst thing, that's as bad as O.J. Simpson. It made it even worse. He criticized Bush. He said something terrible. He spoke out of turn. He should never be allowed to record again. We should put his CDs under steamrollers, just like we did with the Dixie Chicks. Oh, how dare you! How dare you abuse your clout and visibility in the marketplace as a celebrity by voicing an opinion on something that actually matters? How dare you? Artists must not be political. Unless they're Toby Keith. Unless they're Arnold Schwarzenegger, who even was given time on national television, prime time at the Republican convention, to go thundering into everybody's living rooms. People who don't agree with the Bush economic plan are economic curly men. Curly men. I mean, where did this come from, too? Ever seen footage of Mussolini? He's an actor, after all. But curly men. Curly men. That's only one step above saying people who aren't down with Bush are a bunch of niggers or something. It's that bad. But because Arnold said it, it's cute. It's funny. It's kicking butt as we help terminate democracy. And yes, there's a move afoot in the United States Senate to try and get a constitutional amendment passed that foreigners, foreign people, can become president of the United States. So we can have Schwarzenegger by 2012, and then there really will be ovens. Mark my word. Economic guru man. Or another one who's allowed to voice opinions because it's the right kind of right-wing celebrity that really galls me, Mel Gibson. Here he blows $25 million of his own movie, or of his own money, on a movie so violent and so gory, not even Tarantino or Guar could top it. And not one action figure. Not one. Very, very, very disappointing. But meanwhile, I went to New Orleans last March, about 6 months after Katrina hit and the horrible flood happened and all. And I was expecting the worst, but it was vastly worse than I ever thought possible, and still is. It hasn't been magically cleaned up or anything. Sure, there's some touristy areas, the French Quarter, the Garden District, where all the rich people knew to build those fancy old houses so they never would get flooded. But once you get outside of those areas, mile after mile in any direction, it looks like a tornado hit yesterday. It looks like Bush's troops gave the whole area the Fallujah treatment yesterday. I mean, not just a few blocks, but mile after mile, kilometer after kilometer of one home or business after another with, the roof ripped up and all kinds of debris out in the yard or into the street, windows blown out, all these belongings you can never fix, cars flipped around or covered with muck or whatever, all over the place. Boats all piled up like a cairn or something in places, or just sitting in the middle of a park or something like that. This goes on and on and on. I mean, one place I went even had a refrigerator still stuck on the roof of a house, and then there was somebody's record collection all out on the sidewalk, all covered in a big ball of muck. That hit close to home. You could look into one, and there's the dresser, and there's the water line, almost all the way up, a little ring of mud. Pictures of the family still sitting on top and everything. Each one of these buildings was somebody's life. Each one of these was someplace where people just got totally wiped out. Mile after mile after mile. Person driving me around who took me to the FEMA trailer only 6 months later, he finally had one, right down the road from the fridge on the roof and all. He points down the block. A few hundred meters away, there's the levee, and that levee didn't break, he told me. It was still very much there. But what happened in that neighborhood, Chalmette, in the St. Bernard Parish, was that big surge of Gulf of Mexico water just went up and over the levee and slammed into the neighborhood like a tidal wave or a tsunami or something. 13 feet of water swept in, 13 feet like waves do, swept back out again, taking a lot of people's belongings and a lot of people with it, who will never be seen again and all. And he said that the black splotches all over the walls, no, that's not mold in this case, although you better keep that mask on. No, this is oil. Oil from a big old refinery tank nearby, and I don't know whether the wind or the water did it, but it fell over and just hemorrhaged all its contents, spilled its guts into the already toxic soup. And I looked around at the different places I went, and usually there would be, 1, 2, maybe 3 FEMA trailers in front of houses in the whole block of people trying to put their lives back together, fix their property back up, and hang on to what they got and stay in their home and all. But even if you succeed, what have you got at that point? You're living in a ghost town. Abandoned, crackheads next door, or nibbled by these so-called nutria rats that are a non-native species who jumped off the ships in South America, big fuckers.